What's up everybody, Ryan here, Lyndhurst, Ohio. I was here a few weeks back and condemned 2 combustion blowers on these York Sunline model package units, number 3 and 4. Got the motor here. I've got the new wheel. I'm gonna go ahead and take it all apart and show you how to replace it. It's a little more in-depth replacing this particular type of combustion blower, only because they don't come all prefabricated. You get the motor, you get the wheel, and there's a certain process to get it put together. So I'm going to show you that now, and hopefully for some of the newer guys that are just getting into the trade, they run across a bad combustion blower on one of these York Sunline models. Hopefully this will help you out. Well, I still got the power on. I went ahead, I jumped W1 while I was here. That way it wouldn't attempt to run in heat. But you can see this motor is bound up. First step is shut off the disconnect. Confirm your power's off. I've got the disconnect off. I've got my meter fired up. Right here's our power in, brown, yellow, orange. And just check across all 3 legs. No power, no power, no power. And then you can test each leg to ground. I'm gonna do that now, but I'm gonna set down the camera because I kind of need 2 hands to do it. We're back. So our 2 wires go right here. On this particular model has a combustion blower relay. What I like to do, what I suggest people do, is the 2 high volt wires that feed the motor. After you've confirmed power is off, just go ahead and snip them. Then there's no question about where those wires go when you're ready to wire up your new motor. There's that. The 2 low volt wires that run through the centrifugal switch. What we got here is 2 high volt wires that power the motor, and then a low voltage wire that feeds power into the centrifugal switch. Once the motor's up to speed, it shuts that centrifugal switch and confirms back to the board that the motor is in fact running, and we're good to carry on with the sequence operation for heating. I just cut those as well. Then you know those are where your 4 wires go. So now that we've got all our wires disconnected, we have to pull this whole housing apart and gain access to the shaft, the wheel, and be able to get that all apart. So what we've got here is, there goes my bucket. What we've got here is a series of screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws that you take out, and this whole thing's gonna fall out. And what I use for that is a short 5/16 bit and a right angle attachment. I'm gonna get your drill and get the right angle attachment, and then to reach some of them in the back, I use an extension, which I have right here. All right, got my right angle attachment, my extension, and my drill. I like to start on the ones in the back and then remove the ones in the front there at the very end. So there we go, collect your screws. This guy right here. There it is. All right. And one more. And there we are. Easy as pie. We've got it out. And as you can hear, she's shot. So the next thing you're gonna need is your Allen wrenches. Find the right size Allen wrench, get in there, loosen up these 2 set screws, and this should pull right off. Sometimes they'll be rusted on there, take a little bit of effort to get it off. I don't think we're gonna have any problems with this. 1/8 inch Allen wrench. Go ahead and Crack those loose. And look at that. They do provide a little cutout so you can get your Allen wrench in long ways to loosen those up or tighten them up a little more. Come on, there it is. Nothing wrong with this wheel. We're gonna go ahead and throw the new one on though. All right, now we've got 4 nuts. As you can see, there's 4 studs on the new motor that have a little spacer that goes on there. So what I like to do here, because they cover them in high temp silicone, is a wire wheel, clean that up, get all that high temp off of there. And as you can see, clean as a whistle, we're going to be applying high temp silicone back onto these after we get the new motor in. All right, 11:30 seconds. Take it right off. Get all these out. You have a little lock ring on there. You're going to want to collect those as well. I like to note where my wires come out of the motor in relation to the plate, the bottom plate of the housing. That way everything's still, you don't have your wires coming out the back side of the motor, because this has to go back in a specific way. So what I like to do sometimes is just take a knife or my scratch awl and make a mark right like that. Then I know my wires go on that side of the plate and everything lines back up when you go ahead and throw it all back together. So go ahead and take that off, collect your little rings here. They might even stick to the plate if the silicone is holding them down, but I like to pull them all off and get them all collected. That way everything's together. Little spacers. They do send these spacers because sometimes they're so rusted on there you can't use them. I'm just going to reuse these ones. I'm going to save the ones that they sent with the motor. That way I have them if I need them in the future. So you can hear, and yeah, there's something going on inside of this motor. The windings are burnt up. So definitely a bad motor. So from that point, you just grab your new motor, right? Get those wires oriented the same way the old one was. Get your spacers put on. And then with my mark, I know they're gonna line up with the wires. Boom. And there we are. The plate is back in place. I'm gonna go ahead and put all my rings back on, put my nuts on. You don't have to overdo it and kill it, but make sure they're good and tight. And then we're gonna tighten everything down, and I'm gonna put a little goober of high temp silicone on these nuts. That way when this motor fails again in the future, you'll have nice clean nuts and bolts. The little studs in there will be nice and protected and not all rusted. I've had these nuts be seized on there so bad I couldn't get them off. It broke the stud, and then I got to go look for new nuts, which I keep a assortment of nuts and washers in the van, so it's not really an issue if I need a new one. But why not just use the ones you have if you're able to get them apart? So let me get everything threaded on there. This last one's giving me a challenge. There we go. There we go. So like I said, you don't have to kill it. You know, you could be smashing down this spacer if you do too much. So I just hand tighten and make sure everything is good and snug. Boom, perfect. Done. Done. Love it. All right, I've got the caulking out. You don't want to heap it up and get so much caulking on there. It's going to cause something to rub on the bottom of your wheel, because you have a limited amount of space that you have the space on this shaft, so you're not rubbing on the bottom and you're not rubbing on the top of the housing. So just enough like that, just a little bit on each one, and then I take my finger and just kind of work it around. Just enough to cover that. That way it won't get all rusted up and be making it difficult for the next guy to get these nuts off of those little studs. Let me wipe my finger off. We'll get this wheel put down and spaced properly. Caulking's in place. As you can see, we have 2 set screws and we have 2 flat sides to the shaft. So of course you're going to want to stick it on there, so each set screw, you know, tightens down on the flat side. Now what I like to do is just eyeball it and take it down just above where it's going to rub on the top of those nuts. So right around there looks good to me. I'm going to hold it in place. I'm going to come through the long side with the cutout piece in the vane of the wheel and just snug up my first one, and then snug up my second one. All right, so that looks good. We're not rubbing on any of the nuts on the bottom. None of the caulking is hitting the wheel. So then what I like to do is come around here, right? And I just push it up in there with my hand, and I don't throw any screws on it, but I hold it up in there and then I spin the wheel to make sure we're not rubbing on the top of the housing, because what we have here is the top of the housing pulling the combustion gas out through the top of the heat exchanger, through the flue box, and that's what's underneath this insulation. You're feeding your gas and air in with your flame. It runs through the heat exchanger. The combustion blower draws it out, and it comes through that flue box and out the combustion blower. So you've got a little orifice there. It's marked 22 with the sides and top of your housing. So I'm going to set the camera down. I'm going to hold it in place. I'm going to spin it just to make sure nothing is rubbing, because nothing's worse than getting the whole thing put back in, applying power, and realizing that your wheel is now rubbing on the top of this housing. All right, so I'm just going to hold it in place nice and tight like my screws are in it, and I'm going to spin it. Nothing's rubbing, so I'm good to go ahead and put all my screws back in. All right, and there we are. All our screws are back in. The blower wheel is tightened down and nothing is rubbing. So that's a success. Next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and wire everything back up. All right, and since we just cut our wires, we know right where to put them back. So we've got our high volt wire here, red back to red, white will go to white. I'll get all these zip tied up, put back together after I confirm everything is working. And of course, our 2 low volt wires are gonna go right back into this plug. Boom, boom. Let me get 2 hands on this. I can get these pushed together, but these are pretty easy. That right angle attachment comes in real handy. That way you're not cutting your hand up, even though I cut my hand with the right angle attachment. But it's winter, my skin is dry, and it seems like all I do is bump my hand and it's bleeding. So we should be good. That's that. Go ahead and reattach your W wire if anybody has disconnected it so heat won't run, but for the purposes of this video, I'm just gonna go ahead and jump out R to W to get a call for heat, and then we'll go ahead and run this sucker and make sure everything's good, nothing is rubbing, and go from there. So board is jumped out, all the wiring looks good here, everything looks good there. I will definitely button that up with some zip ties before I button it up completely and move on to that unit. All right, I've got R to W jumped out. Let's go ahead and kick power on. And there we go. Got power applied to our combustion blower. The centrifugal switch is going to close, send power back to the control board so it can carry on with its normal operation, sequence operation. Okay, so the centrifugal switch shut, pilot valve open. It ignited the pilot valve, and now our main valve has opened and ignited the main burners. So that was a successful combustion blower replacement on this little direct drive motor with the centrifugal switch on the end. The right angle attachment comes in real handy on this type of repair. So hopefully somebody out there gained some knowledge from this. So hopefully somebody out there appreciates the video. I'm just trying to show simple things, helping out new guys. That's how you do one of these Sunline model combustion blowers. They're pretty easy. So that's gonna do it. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this one. I appreciate you watching. If you liked the video, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon. That'll notify you anytime I got a new video coming out. Leave me a comment, hit like. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.